Yeah, I wanted to tell my story because I think that people who tell their story, I'm just going to be crying. I'm just going to be crying if
It's
that's
okay.
okay.
You wouldn't be the only one.
People who tell their story get their power back when they tell their story.
I think you're right.
Yeah. So a lot of people don't see things the way that we see things. You know, they say, I was in the adult business. I was an escort, and I hear a lot of men say, "Well, you can just get a job and get out," and it's really not that easy. This is making noise. I'm going to sit this down so
Sure.
I'm not listening to that. And the thing is, it's you have to treat it almost like an addiction because it's not just the money that you make. It's the lifestyle that you have. And I'm assuming that's on. This is filming.
Yes.
Okay. It's it's just the whole lifestyle. It's, the fact that you make such a large amount of money in a short amount of time, but at the same time, we spend the money very quickly. And
Well, why is it that you guys spend the money so quickly?
Can I get a tissue, please?
Absolutely. Is it because you make it so quickly, so easily?
That's part of it. That's part of it, and it makes us feel better. But also, we are very much kind of, in some way, in competition with ourselves or with the mindset of the business of, if we don't have a lot to show, we end up spending it on designer stuff that we don't have money for, or a lot of showy things, because we're like, if we don't have these things, then what are we doing in the business? Or if we say we make this much money an hour, then what do we have to show for it? At least I'm going to carry around a designer bag or something, and clothes and stuff that we really can't afford. So that's a lot of times where the money goes, and that you make it so quickly that you think, well, I'll make the same pretty soon. I'll replace that money and it'll be okay. But I've often wondered, why was it okay for me to decide to go into that business? Because somebody may say, well, if you go kill somebody, then you'll make this amount of money, you'll be able to take care of yourself. But not everybody does that. Not everybody decides to go into this business thinking, they think of other choices. They make other things happen. So I don't understand why that we do it.
How did you get first involved?
I ran away from home when I was little, and when I was a teenager, and that's how. And so ever since then, it was always in the back of my mind as an option. And so, and it was always a temporary option. It was always something that was just going to be temporary, and I wouldn't stay there. But I did stay there most of the time.
How does that happen?
Huh?
How does that happen? You start making really good money that you can't make at any other job?
Well, what happens is you usually end up, well, I can only tell you from my point of view, from my experience. Yeah, I usually would end up drinking for appointments, and that would end up I would end up having a hangover. I would drink way too much, even if it was a longer time that I spent. That was even worse. I would drink even more. And so then the next day I would be practically useless. I wouldn't want to do anything, or for however long that lasted. So even though the actual work time was a short amount of time, the recovery from whatever drugs or alcohol is being done during that time takes up maybe another day. And so it was hard for me. I was always trying to replace that income. I was always trying to have other businesses or other things that I could work at my own time, my own schedule, so that I could continue that. And I was always balancing both things, and you can't really do that and be really successful at either one. So it was always a struggle with that. And I could never replace that money. So, and I tried for like 10 years trying to find ways to replace that money and to just stop doing it. And then finally I just decided that I just have to stop.
Why did you think stopping was the right thing to do?
Because shame. I didn't like what I was doing. I hated myself.
It impacts your self-worth?
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of weird because on one hand, it is you do get an ego boost or some sort of high off of it with the money, and then on the other side, you don't. It's like, well, I can't have a real life, really. I can't have a real boyfriend. I can't have any real relationship. I'm very, very limited on who I could have a friendship with because I will be judged and I would have to lie about things. So I never really dated seriously when I was in the business because I didn't want to lie. And if things started getting to the point to where we were getting closer or whatever, it just never got to the point to where I felt like I would have to tell anybody that. So I just kept things very light and not committing to anybody. And most of my friends that I had had been in the business or were in the business or had worked in a strip club, were in the business in some way. So they were really my only friends, if you could say that. They weren't really friends. I couldn't depend on them for anything. But those were my only, females that I had around me, really. And at some point in time, I ended up really good at screening clients and weeding out dangerous clients. And I got really, really good at that. And I got really good at just knowing how to help. No, I mean, I learned how to do websites. That's how I learned to do websites and create an online persona. So I started doing that for other girls in the business. And then I ended up being like an assistant to them. So I would help them book their clients and screen their clients. And so I never really called myself a madam. Other people have called me a madam, but I just like to think of myself as an assistant to them. And I know for a fact that I probably screened the clients more than any other agency around because I know how much time it takes, and it can be really time consuming.
And you're protecting the girls.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
were you making money at being an assistant / madam?
Yes. And at the level that they were on, they could I could just have one or two, and that would pay for my bills and their bills.
So these were high-end girls.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you were on the high end of the
I was on
spectrum?
I would say on the high end, but I would say also that there's always somebody above me. There would always be somebody above me, somebody. So yeah, we were never
I've been to Monaco. I've seen the top of the mountain.
Yeah, so there's always better, but we for our area and without but anyway, so yeah, there was one girl that I assisted for, and I would say that she was definitely like the best in the business in that area. But she had quantity also, And I think somebody that is on a higher end would have less quantity. And so that kind of, I was trying to get her to go away from that, but she didn't trust it enough. I was like, you could, like, you are so good and so popular, you could really cut this down in half and make the same, if not more money. And she thought it would really affect her. She couldn't trust it, so she didn't even try to. But I did, I was probably the only one in the business that really actually tried to talk the girls into getting out of the business. So I was always talking to them about that as well. And one I did, she would get really upset sometimes when I talked to her, but it would really upset me to see her family asking for money or her sister wanting to, I'm not going to say anything that would cause her identity, but
it's
if
interesting
they knew her.
how some of these women are addicted to it.
Mm-hmm.
They say they're addicted to the fast money, and I'm sure that's true, but I believe they're also addicted to maybe it's the male attention or just being treated like a sex object or being degraded or whatever their attachment is to it. Maybe it connects them back to how they were treated as a young girl by their who knows.
It has to be.
Dad,
it has
uncle,
to be.
somebody.
But actually, I think that it's not. It is an addiction, but I think it's more to the money than anything else, because I don't think that most of them, I don't think that they're addicted to the intimacy or the sex part of it, I don't think they are, because if that's really what they loved and what they were addicted to, I don't think they would need to drink or do drugs in order to do their job.
True,
Yeah.
but I think they're addicted to some substance, and once that substance takes hold, and then they're really
You mean
much more susceptible to.
So are you saying if they were drug addicts or something? Mm-hmm. Okay. Actually, the women that
because a lot of these drugs will put you in the mood.
True. The women that I worked with didn't do drugs. They really didn't.
Yeah, there's in it for the money.
They did drink a lot. There was that. And as far as I know, they didn't do drugs. But yeah, so I don't think that the drugs or getting money to replace the drugs was part of the group that I was part of. Not that I knew about.
I'm just saying, doing any kind of substance puts you in the mood.
Well, alcohol is
Yeah, alcohol is a drug.
So yeah, I mean, they were definitely alcoholics.
But whether it's crystal meth, cocaine, ecstasy, whatever, those all put you in the mood to have some fun.
Yeah, true. Or let yourself disassociate from it.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, for me, for instance, whenever I got out of the business, I just stopped drinking, and it wasn't even really an addiction. So a lot of the girls don't even really drink unless they're working, and it's, for instance, with me, there was a period of time where for some reason, there were a lot of requests with men that were doing cocaine, and they want you to do it with them. So if they say I ask the girls, and if they don't want to, I don't pressure them. That's not true. If you're doing drugs, you're going to want someone else to do it with you. So I would do it with them. It got to where the drugs were really affecting my life and affecting, it was almost like I was an addict to it, but I decided to not see anybody that was doing drugs anymore. So I just, it was scary because I didn't know how it would affect my income, but I knew that the drugs were getting to me. And as soon as I stopped seeing people who did that, then I stopped doing it.
Maybe because 95% of them are doing drugs.
No. Mm-mm. I'm telling you, no.
Nope.
No. Because, we're seeing a lot of, we were seeing a lot of men that were, just traveling for business or they were, they made a lot of money. They were more businessmen than they weren't like stars or athletes or anything like that. Mostly just businessmen that made a lot of money, and they didn't do drugs. Not that I saw.
Yeah, you would know better than I would.
Yeah, no, seriously, no, they didn't. Not from my experience with that. But that also, the way that I found out to get around that is to raise the girls' prices, raise your prices, and you get a different type of clientele. So, and also the men think that, now see, I'm teaching you about that. And the men would
I'm going to become
think also if they're paying more, then the girl is not a drug addict. So that was also their experience. They're like, if somebody is under this amount, then I usually know that they're probably a drug addict or something. So they thought the same thing on our end. Yeah, I'm glad that so the way that I got out of it is that I realized I couldn't replace the money and that I just was going to have to just stop and just have faith that even if I'm living in a cardboard box and have zero money, that I'm just going to have to stop doing it. And I bought a shuttle bus, and I got my bills down to nothing except for the bus, and I turned it into a tiny house, and I lived in it for 2 years until COVID happened. And then I had to have surgery, and my Uber driver was like, he picked me up from the hospital and said, you're going back to your bus to heal from your surgery? And he said, no, that's not going to happen. So he sent 2 ladies over that was working with an organization called PATH, and they brought me food, and within a week they took me to a hotel to stay. And that's also when COVID happened, so they were trying to get everybody off of the street anyway. So I stayed there for almost a year in the hotel, and then they got us all an apartment, and then after that they helped us get on to Section 8, and so now that's how I've been living, on zero money income and just focusing on myself and my family, and being strong enough to own my story and not be ashamed of it.
There were no savings from your years doing it?
No.
That's a story that I hear over and over again, even from the very top end.
No savings. Yeah, it's horrible.
Even the ones who seem to be making a killing.
Mm-hmm. No, it was
they end up with
shameful.
Money problems.
That is shameful. That is shameful too, because it's like it makes you feel like an idiot. Just sorry that you didn't do something smarter with the money.
How do you feel after? How many years did you do it?
Well, off and on, for about 10 years, off and on.
And how did you feel after 10 years of doing that?
Hopeless. I just felt hopeless. I'm like, there's just no way. And I'm like, at the time, it was years ago, at the time I got the bus and was like, I'm getting out of this business. I'm like, I really want to get out of this business before I get really old and people say that I just got out of the business because I was too old to do it. So I'm like, I really want to get out of the business before, so that I can say, no, look at me. I could still do the business. I was still looking good and everything. So that's not why I got out of the business. I got out of the business because that's what I felt like was right for me. And I learned how to be poor because I couldn't replace that income. So one thing about California is people sit out, the trash in California is really great. So people would sit out things, and I kind of became addicted to that. You just trade one addiction for another addiction.
Going through trash?
Yeah. So people sit out things also, like things that they think that you can use or whatever, they'll sit it out next to the trash. And because they know that people are walking through the alleys looking for things that they may be able to use. So that's what I did. I decorated my apartment like that. I ended up just creating and making all kinds of things. I kind of became an artist with all of the things I would find. I would find paint and canvases and everything that I would need. So I never had to really buy any art supplies or anything. So everything, even the gift that you have, is found in the trash. Was found, and I created it from things I found in the trash. I was really addicted to it. If my neighbor didn't have a patio furniture or whatever, I would get them patio furniture and decorate their patio furniture. If my neighbor one time didn't have a mattress, so I was giving her mattresses, and then she would just throw them away and get rid of them. I'm like, well, that's why you didn't have a mattress to begin with, because you just throw them away. She tends to go through them for whatever reason.
Did you have dreams of something else working out for you when you were working as an escort? Like having a guy come along and just fall in love with you and take you away?
I think whenever I was younger...
The pretty woman scenario?
No, I never had that in my head, because I thought women that thought that were kind of delusional. Mm-hmm. And I never had that weakness, really. A lot of women do have that weakness to where they have to have that love and attention from a man or from somebody. And I think that's where people like a pimp comes in, that they give them that attention while knowing what they're doing. And they also get to stay in the business. But I never had that. And now I really don't even think that I would want to get married, because I don't think I'd be a good wife. I would just...
You don't think what?
I don't think that I would be a good wife.
You don't?
No, because you have to take care of each other and focus on each other. Really, I don't know that I have... I'm getting ready to go move and be with my family and help them with children. And because sorry. Because the children have been through a lot. So I don't know that I would have time. I don't know that I would have enough to give to be there for them and have a relationship. So relationship is not a priority for me. But I have 2 children, and I tried really hard to be the best mom that I could be. And I tried to hide this from them. And, you could always think that you're hiding something from your kids, but even if they don't know exactly what it is, they know something is wrong. And something really affected my daughter. I'm not sure. I have an idea of some things, but of course, me being in this business is not a good thing at all. And she is now an alcoholic and addict, and she had her children taken away from her, and she. That's why I moved to California. I came here to help her.
Did you raise your daughter?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
From birth?
Mm-hmm. 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 And that's why I came here. I came here to help her because I knew something was really wrong. My mother's instincts were just through the roof, and I knew something was wrong, and I thought, she just needs my help. She's a single mother out here alone. She just needs my help. So I'll get out there and I'll help her. And then I found out that she really didn't want my help. She just wanted to go out at night. But not, I don't want to tell everything, but it had gotten pretty bad. It was really bad. And so so the kids were taken away from her, and the father has the kids now, and the kids just turned around with him. They're doing so great. They're doing well in school. And so I'm going there to help him with watch the children. So the only way I can help my daughter right now is to try and be there for her children when she can't be there for her children, and she doesn't need to be there for her children until she goes to rehab or fixes herself. It's been 2 years, and she still has not acknowledged that anything is wrong or that she's done anything wrong. And she's still in her addiction, and she still has the boyfriend who tried to murder her around her. So it's in no way safe for the children to be there at all. So she happened to get a judge that is friends with her neighbor, and the neighbor is very involved politically in Santa Monica. And so she's friends with the judge, and the judge has refused to listen to what my daughter's problems are. He also, the last time he said that he wanted the kids to go back to my daughter and for the father to have zero visitation, which makes zero sense at all. And that was right after also that I had written him a letter saying, please, I don't want my daughter to die. Could you please send her to rehab? He's just ordered her to take a few classes, and that's it. And I am afraid that my daughter is going to die when I leave, and I won't be here. But she doesn't speak to me, or when she does speak to the family, it's just very mean and cruel. But that's one reason why I stayed here, because I don't want my daughter to die. I don't want her to not have anybody here for her if she has an emergency, even though she's not speaking to me. But the kids need me. I can't sit here forever, and the kids need me because they don't have their mom right now.
Let me ask you a more general question. Do you, it seems pretty clear, you regret getting into this kind of work?
Well, yeah, because I feel like it's affected my daughter, my family. I feel like I've now created this generational thing to where not only my daughter's life is messed up, my grandchildren's life is messed up, and I'm just trying in any way to help correct that.
What was your childhood like?
Well, I was adopted, and some people think that that is a form of trafficking, adoption.
Do you know anything about your biological parents?
My adopted mother told me that she had, whenever she talks about adopting me, she makes it sound like she was going shopping. So she's like, oh, at the time I had blonde hair, she was like, oh, I wanted a blonde little girl. And, it's like she was going shopping or something. And my adopted mother, she really looks like she's Native American sometimes, and she can get really dark skin. So I would look nothing like her at all. So it was really like she just went shopping maybe so that I would look like my dad or something. And I'd always felt like I was a tool for her to keep my dad around. So I always felt like I was kind of a product, even from the beginning. But yeah, it was a closed adoption, so nobody was supposed to find me. My biological mother found me, and I met her. There was rumors that she was doing massage therapy and that she was possibly in the business. But she had also told me that it sounds like a family curse, because she said that my great-grandmother had a child, placed the girl for adoption. My grandmother had a girl, placed her for adoption. My mother had a girl, placed her for adoption. And then I had a girl, and I almost placed her for adoption. I mean, that sounds like a curse to me.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, and who knows what happened before then? I'm not sure. But
in your childhood with the adopted family, were there any problems there?
Yeah, a lot. I feel like my mom hated me. She ridiculed me all the time. I got to where, whenever I was 12, I almost stopped speaking completely because I felt like every time I said something or every time I did something, it was ridiculed or made fun of. So I just stopped doing anything. And literally, unless somebody spoke to me, I was not saying anything, even at school. And it was really bad. And then people in the family would have to tell my mom to take me to the doctor or different things, and that would be the only reason why she would take me. And then I went to a psychiatrist for maybe 1 or 2 visits, and that's not really enough. And they would just say, well, she's just going through a lot of changes. But it was more like a narcissistic type of mother, to where she would literally try to make me believe that one thing did not happen. And it was just crazy making all the time, and yelling and screaming, and just all the time when she was around, I could never relax. So a lot of people say that, I just needed to ignore that or just try to get over it. You really can't. I would rather her have hit me than to live emotionally like that constantly. I had if I won this art contest for the whole school, things that I did like that, she would barely even notice it. And I think she even threw the trophy away. Anything that I did, I graduated from, I have several different associate degrees, and she never acknowledged any time that I finished any of those. She didn't finish. She didn't acknowledge my birthdays after I was 16 years old. When I was getting married, she did absolutely nothing to help me.
Did you have a dad around?
I did. Well, they separated when I was little, and so he wasn't really in the household until I was a teenager. And by then, it was just too late for him to try and fix anything. So
no sexual abuse in your childhood?
Not that I can remember. I just remember being very aware of sexual things when I was little, but I don't know where it came from. It could have been from just other children, but I don't know. Also, my biological mother told me that my great-grandmother on her deathbed said that Selma Lagerlöf was her mother, which in Sweden she's very famous. And she said that she had to keep that secret her entire life. And she was on her deathbed and just wanted her daughter to know that information. So I'm thinking if it was on her deathbed, then it must be true. I don't know if it is or not. There's no way to prove that, but I believe that it's true. And Selma Lagerlöf has a history of, they have now just started advertising that she was a lesbian, that she never was married, she never had children. So that would actually go with the fact that she was, her pregnancy probably came from an abuse situation. And so they hid it. And then the rest of her life, she was only seen with women. So yeah, I just think maybe from that, maybe there was a history of some kind of curse that has been passed down and passed down and passed down through the women in our family. That's just, it's like every female has had a horrible story in our family. But right now, my focus is on moving and getting to my grandchildren and helping my son-in-law and keeping the kids out of harm with my daughter. And the only way...
Where is your daughter staying now?
She's here in Santa Monica.
On the streets?
No. No, she's not on the street, but she has a home, she has an apartment, so she has a place for the kids to go. But that's about it. And attorneys are... I mean, my son-in-law's done really well at looking up what kind of paperwork he needs to file for the judge and everything like that. But I don't feel like the judge takes him seriously unless he has an attorney. And then whenever we get an attorney, the attorney seems to not really do anything. So if you have any referral to an attorney that could help with children, that might help, because I told him there's got to be somebody that just will go against what is not afraid to go against what a judge would say, or maybe make a judge mad, just for the sake of the children. One of the littlest grandson of mine, he almost drowned twice within a month. And my daughter was at, Tiffany Haddish. She was at Tiffany Haddish's party. She's an actress. And Tiffany saved his life twice. She pulled him out of the swimming pool twice and saved his life 2 times at her parties. So, and this was within a month. So, I mean, I would love to tell her an official thank you for saving his life. And if there was any way that I knew to get in touch with her, I would. If it wasn't for her saving his life, I don't know. We don't know if he would still be here with us or not. My daughter, I think she's also addicted to being in the Hollywood party scene. She knows a lot of people. And, people get addicted to that.
It's a hell of a lot more fun than raising kids.
Yeah. And sometimes I wonder if she really wants them back, if she just is enjoying the fight.
When you have the kids too young sometimes.
She was 25. So maybe she was too young, but, I thought, well, she's not a teenager. She's not a teenage pregnancy, so I did that, but, yeah, no.
Not everyone's cut out to be a parent.
Not everyone is. Not everyone is.
Michelle, let me ask you one last question. What would you say is the most important lesson you've learned in all of this?
To just love yourself and to not make any decisions to do anything that you really know in your heart you don't want to do, to just hold out and be willing to let that go, be willing to let things go. The money that you get from the business kind of owns you. You become a slave to that. You become a slave to anything that you're not willing to let go, just like in Hollywood. And my daughter is not willing to let go being around famous people, going to their parties because of what that brings her. So she can't let that go, so she can't get her kids back, because in order to change, you really do have to change your people, places, and things. And that's what getting the shuttle bus was to me. I was able to change everything. I was willing to change my people, places, and things, because you do have to treat getting out of the business like an addiction. And I worked so hard to get out, and I just remember working so hard on that bus that I was able to get out a lot of anger, because I had to deal with a lot of heavy things, and I had bruises all over me because I didn't know what I was doing, and I was hurting myself trying to turn it into a little tiny house. But I did a lot of healing in that bus, and it was a spiritual thing for me. And in a way, I kind of miss it, but I worked so hard on it that I feel like that makes it even harder for me to turn and go back. So, for instance, when you help somebody change their life and give them money to help them change their life, if you do that and they're not having to put a whole lot of work into it, it's just so easy for them to go back and do it. It's almost like buying an expensive bag or getting something that's really hard to get. You're going to appreciate it more. And that's what I feel like with my situation. I worked so hard to get out of the business and to let go of things and to change what my values are, that I just could not give all of that work up and just go back to it. It would mean nothing. So yeah, I'm okay with, have been okay with being poor. I don't plan on staying that way. I have goals and things that I want to do, but I definitely am not going to make any goals to where I have to get back into the business.
All right, Michelle, thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thank you.
I wish you lots of luck from here on out.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. When I was designing the first Soft White Underbelly book, I realized that there were so many great portraits that weren't going to make it into that book. They just wouldn't fit. And once I saw how well that first book sold, I knew I'd have to design a second book. This second book is finally ready to ship. Like the first one, this book has a collection of some of the best portraits from Soft White Underbelly, accompanied by a quote from that person's interview. This book features another group of Rebecca portraits, as well as a collection of color images of the Whitaker family, and plenty of others. You can order yours for $125 or $150 for a signed copy at softwhiteunderbelly.org. Again, like the first book, once this book is sold out, I will not be printing more of them. The portraits are what Soft White Underbelly is all about, and these two books contain the best of all that work. Thank you for watching.